Hello, BookTube. All right, we're back for number 3 of our 7.9K Q&A, and we're up to, let's see here, William Fett. I predict 10,000 subs by the end of 2021. Oh, please. Please. No. I've always been fond of books about books. Me too. What are your thoughts on the following? The Book of Great Books, A Guide to 100 World Classics by John Campbell. The Books of the Century, edited by Charles McGrath and the staff of the New York Times Book Review. And The Wonderful World of Books, edited by Alfred Stefford. I only know the second one, The Books of the Century. It's terrific. Just terrific. I don't think I know the other two. I'd have to see their covers to know for sure, but I don't think so. Do we get more light on the subject here? Just a bit. Ian C. says, 2 questions. 1, you suggest faster reading by concentrating fully and stopping sub-vocalizing. Don't people find it hard to take in and understand and appreciate the content if they start reading a lot faster? I'd worry I'd read more but absorb and enjoy less. No. At first, maybe. Once you get used to it, no. You'll absorb and enjoy. I mean, I pretty much can guarantee the fastest reader that you have had any contact with in your life. Do I strike you as someone who misses a lot of what he reads or who doesn't enjoy it? No, you get used to it, is what I'm saying. You once I do the 2 things that all people who don't try it assume will kill the love of any reading. I read very fast and I read critically at all times. And I'm telling you, they only enhance the experience. They don't decrease it. The only time they decrease it is the very beginning, when the muscles are new, when the mere act of doing it is distracting you. Once you get over that, you'll be flying through stuff and you'll be loving it. And number 2, on your recommendation, I read Lonesome Dove, which was so good. Fantastic. I think I saw a comment by you which said that the other books in the Lonesome Dove series were much less good. That is true. They are not worth your time to read. If so, has the author written anything else as good as this? Yes, he has. Quite a few. But the only one that stands full comparison with Lonesome Dove is Moving On, which is a contemporary novel. It's not historical. But don't miss it. Don't miss Moving On. It's also huge. There are his 2 biggest books, and there are his 2 best books. Absolutely. Oh, my. Chapter 21 says, are there people out there that you hate? A bit of a morbid question, but curious all the same. We're human, after all. Well, there's a debate about that when it comes to me. No sense of touch, no regular blood type, lots of enhanced senses, no sleep. But oh, I get your point. Who do you hate? Why do you hate them? Yes, there are 3 people in the world who I hate. Not dislike, not don't want to talk to, but viscerally, personally hate. Where I wish violence upon them and where I wish I could conduct it myself. But I would say 3 out of the gazillions of people that I've met in my life is pretty good. I would say that ratio is pretty good. God, I love these questions. I swear, I love these questions. Jonathan Noel says, would you make more videos specifically on dogs? Maybe a guide to owning a dog or training a dog? Oh my. I used to train dogs for a living. For a time, I did. I made money that way. I have a lot to say on the subject. I see wrong behaviors every single day. Every time Frida and I are out on our walks, I see wrong behaviors that proliferate always when it comes to dog owners. Just the other day, I saw a woman across the street whose dog noticed Frida and was starting to get all excited. That is perfectly natural, absolutely natural, especially since the dog was very, very young. In other words, it shouldn't be a thing that prompts any kind of correction at all on the part of a dog owner. And yet, it not only got a correction, but it got a barrage of contradictory corrections. No, stop, heel, please, pressure on the hind end, pressure on the front end, jerk on the leash. No, stop, heel, please. What's a dog to make of any of that? I have no idea what a dog's to make of any of that. I don't know that dog training videos would fit with the general theme and feng shui of this channel. I have a lot to say on the subject. Once upon a time, in happier days, I would have said, just let me come over. If you have a new dog or if you have a problem that you want to address, let me fix it for you. Anyway, Clash 2 says, your thoughts on Prime Minister Boris Johnson. He's an oaf and a moron. And I predicted if you could meet some of my IRL real friends, you could ask them. I predicted he would be prime minister someday. It was inevitable, just inevitable. I saw him on an old video where he was on a panel with Christopher Hitchens, and they were talking about Salman Rushdie getting a knighthood, and whether or not that was provocative to the world's Muslims. And when it came to Boris Johnson, he said, I find his books perfectly unreadable. Why not give it to Dick Francis? Perfectly ripping yards. The minute I saw that, I thought, you're going to be prime minister someday, aren't you? He's like a character from a P.G. Wodehouse novel. We would be a lot less guilty pleasure to just laugh at his buffoonery if it weren't dangerous. Unfortunately, in 2020, a leader who is a buffoon is dangerous. We have an international problem to deal with here. And your thoughts on Nigel Farage? Nigel Farage is so obviously just a quintessential Hollywood central casting, fake politician on the make. Just if you had to cast somebody that doesn't mean anything he says, that's only going to look out for himself, that's going to sound convincing and glib when he doesn't mean what he's saying, you'd go straight to something like this. He's in every Schwarzenegger movie. Let's see here. Royale Tube says, your thoughts on Eric Van Lustbader. His fantasy series, The Sunset Warrior, is very, very good. Very good. Would be nice to have. I'd love to have that. Either the original mass market paperbacks with those great covers, or an omnibus collecting the four of them. That would be wonderful. The Ninja series, very good. His Jason Bourne novels I haven't read, but he's a good working hack. He's terrific to read. We seem to have substituted the frog in the throat for massive gas. That's the problem you have when your booktuber is ancient. Zero Z says, let's see here. These Q&As are just the best. I'm certainly enjoying it. You mentioned that you're a fan of Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter series. I am, yes. What other YA fantasy series would you recommend? Oh my God, quite a few. I should do. I'll do a starter kit. Oh no, I keep promising starter kits. I'm not doing them. Also, your thoughts on Kenneth Branagh's 1996 Hamlet film? Oh my, I have a lot of thoughts on the Branagh Hamlet. It's so terrible. It's just so terrible, and I have so many. I can bring receipts, as they say in the 21st century. I was planning on doing that for the rousing conclusion to ShakeTube 2020, where there was going to be a 4-way Zoom chat. I was just going to drop a bomb and have people defend the Branagh Hamlet, because we were talking about Hamlet in that final thing, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't make the video. Very annoying, but oh my God, someday. In fact, I should debate it with Jason, because I bet he loves it. Our taste in movies is so diametrically opposed. I'll bet he loves it. We ought to debate it on a Zoom chat. That would be a lot of fun. Let's see here. Thomas RP says, have you read, yeah, I said it, any of the Warhammer 40,000 books? I started one of them. Any of the ones by Dan Abnett. Okay, well, I started one of them by Dan Abnett because he is a co-writer of some of my favorite Legion of Superheroes issues. I started it, but I laid it aside and I haven't got back to it. And it's like one of 40,000 books, so I have no idea what the title of it was. But I didn't totally hate it. I felt a little lost. Also, what do you make of Kanye West? Well, I'm assuming you mean in the context of American politics. I don't, in the broader sense of the term, he just makes me sad, because he's a multi-millionaire several dozen times over, with the power of life and death financially over everyone in his orbit, and yet he is obviously mentally damaged, and not minor, not in a trivial way either. He's obviously not. It's terrible that the way the people around him take advantage of him. I think that's just a shame. He deserves round-the-clock care away from the public eye, and instead he is just enabled by everybody. He just has the ability to tell people, no, I want to do this, and if you don't agree, you're fired. I think that's a shame. It's so sad. Let's see here. Ancient Yakunda says, hey, Steve, love your channel so much. It's the best on YouTube by far. Well, if it were the best on YouTube by far, wouldn't I have 300,000 subscribers? Wouldn't I have 1 million subscribers with one of those silver plaques behind me? If I had 1 million subscribers? I was going to say, if I had 1 million subscribers, I'd be getting a nice fat check in the mail every week and wouldn't have to think about anything else. But I wouldn't. Because if I had 1 million subscribers, I wouldn't monetize the channel anyway. You've seen what YouTube monetization is like these days? It's ridiculous. It's gotten so much worse than just the last month. You've got a bank of 3 commercials at the beginning of every video. 2 of them you can't skip. The third one you can. Then a couple of minutes in, you have another bank of commercials, one of which you can't skip and one of which you can. Then a little bit after that, same video. You have two more commercials that you can't skip. It's ridiculous. It's worse than network TV was in the 1970s. No, but anyway, let's see here. I have a bit of a downer of a question, so if you feel free to skip it if you want. I wouldn't miss this for the world. I just want to know what it was like living through the AIDS crisis and how that compares to this year's pandemic for you. It was eerie and weird. There were a couple of living through the worst, I mean, the fireball beginnings of the AIDS pandemic were in the American Northeast were pretty awful. And for me, they were a little more awful than they might seem on the surface for a couple of reasons that we could get into over wine and calzones late at night someday. But I lost friends, and it felt worse than this pandemic because it felt more personal. Because of a lot of the vectors of AIDS in those early days, if you knew one person who had it and might die of it, you probably knew 2 or 3 other people who had it and might die of it. And that started to feel that way. It started to feel like an assault, not just on a demographic, but on your own social circles. Whereas COVID-19 doesn't feel that way. Most people who get it don't know they have it. Most of the people who know they have it don't have it bad. It's still COVID-19 has not worked its way into everybody's daily life in the way that it will. If the latest Johns Hopkins or WHO projections are true, then by this time next year, it will have worked its way into everyone's life. Not just their communities, not just their hospitals, but their personal lives. It doesn't feel that way yet. Let's see here. Michael Moore says, I seem to recall you not caring for William Boyd. Well, I know, it's not that I don't care about him. No, I like his stuff. I just don't love it. I know he has some outspoken vocal fans, and they make lots of good points. A couple of critics that I know think he's the bee's knees. He's just never done it for me. What are your thoughts on Jonathan Rabin? Well, there we go. There's a bad thing. A horse of a different color. He's great. Those of you who don't know, he's among other things a critic, and he's terrific. Just terrific. Anna on the Shelves says, quick questions. Have you any quick story or memory from Portugal that you care to share? Conimbriga, for instance, or Mirobriga? Basically, the Roman ruins for Portugal took up a lot of my time. A couple of people did too. One in particular. I wish that the one person in particular who took up a lot of my time in Portugal, could sing out in the comments field, but unfortunately he's connected to the previous question. He died of AIDS. So he doesn't get to watch these videos, and that feels very strange. But the Roman ruins, I poured nose to the ground over every inch of Portugal's Roman ruins and had a great time doing it. Have you finally decided on the future of the Penguin Wall? I personally vote to take some out in favor of biographies. That's this wall behind me, and it refers to a scandalous thing that I mentioned in an earlier video. I dropped even the slight possibility that I might change around the books in this room and that one of the changes might affect the Penguin Wall. Heard from all quarters about how that is unacceptable. Nevertheless, there is a lot of duplication there. There are a lot of books on that Penguin Wall that I don't need, and that I don't consult. And that shouldn't be true in this room. So I don't know. I know I'm not making any more progress, but I am strongly thinking about reworking the books in this room in 2021. Strongly thinking about that in a way that I haven't in years. And since you like comics, when are we going to see you dive into manga? I would suggest Vagabond if you haven't tried it already. I haven't tried Vagabond. I haven't tried manga of any kind other than 2. Years and years and years ago, there was one called Crying Freeman that I loved. That was my introduction to manga, and I loved it. And then decades after that, Death Note came along, and I loved that too. But I haven't made a study of it at all. I haven't dived into it in detail at all. I've never heard of Vagabond before this question, so I'll have to check that out. And then Vera Pavlova. Oh, we're done. Fantastic. 3 videos. Hey, Steve, can you recommend a soup to nuts book of Greek myths, if there is such a thing? Oh, yes. Absolutely, there is such a thing. Now, you might think that on this subject I'm going to recommend a Boston book, Bullfinch's Mythology, Thomas Bullfinch's Mythology, and it is great, but it is decidedly it's a decidedly Victorian era type of thing that won't go over well with modern readers. I would suggest instead Edith Hamilton's Mythology, which is going on 100 years old and is fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and you will never be at a lack for editions. There'll always be a paperback in bookstores. It's been in print forever. And there was just a couple of years ago a beautiful illustrated hardcover that's probably in paperback by now. But the hardcover is probably available too. Edith Hamilton's Mythology. I strongly recommend it. And that is it. Amazingly, that is it. That is our 7.9K Q&A. So we did it in 3 videos. And I had a blast. So I can't thank you all enough. I will upload these, or start to, and we'll see how long that takes. But I can't end without saying once again how happy I am that we're all doing this. This is so much fun. So I'm going to wrap this video up for now, and we'll meet again at 8K. Oh my God. So thank you, Book Food. Thank you so much for these questions, and I will see you soon.